Morning. Today we are going to work with some irregular two-step equations. So, the beginning of two-step equations, I give you guys a set of steps that you would use to solve most two-step equations, but there are some that are considered two-step equations that do get solved a little bit differently. So, I have some examples here for you today that we're going to go through. All right, so here's our first examples, 4 times, and then you have parentheses 2x plus 3 equals 44. Because this equation, you guys remember doing distributive property, I could take and distribute this 4, because it's being multiplied by everything in the parentheses. I could distribute it and then take and solve it using the normal two-step equations. But for this one, because I only have the set of parentheses and then the 4 is multiplying by that, I can take this and divide by 4, okay? That's going to get rid of what I'm multiplying by here because the whole set of parentheses is being multiplied by that 4. So I'm going to do that and left with 2x plus 3. And then I'm going to take 44 and divide it by 4 and get 11. So now this looks like a normal two-step equation, and I can take it and solve it as I normally would. Okay, subtract 3 from both sides. That leaves me 2x. That cancels. 11 minus 3 is 8. And now I can divide both sides by 2, and I'm left x equals 4. My first step is going to be to divide both sides by -3. Okay, again, this cancels out. I'm left with x minus 7. And then I have 9 divided by -3, which is -3. Then I use inverse operations. I have a one-step equation now. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Leaves me with x. Okay, I had a negative and I'm adding a positive to it, which means I subtract to keep the sign of the larger one. So 7 minus 3 is 4, and 7 is larger, so it is a positive number. Okay? And let's move on. Okay, so here's 2 more examples of these type. And again, this first one, I got my negative sign on the outside. You guys remember when we talked about this with expressions, there's like that imaginary -1 that's there. So I'm going to get rid of the -1 first. I can do it one of 2 ways. I can take and divide by -1. Okay, that's going to leave me 4x plus 3, and then just 35 on this side. Now, I know that just means to take the opposite, so I could go ahead and change 35 to its opposite and not show that step. Okay, so now I am going to subtract 3 from both sides. Leaves me with 4x. 35 minus 3 is 32. Okay, my next step is to divide both sides by 4, which cancels out. X is equal to 8. Okay, let's look at the next example. 12 times -2x plus 5 equals 276. So again, my first step, I'm going to take and divide both sides by this 12 so I can get rid of that. So divide by 12, that leaves me -2x plus 5, and then -276 divided by 12 leaves me -23. Okay, then I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Leaves me -2x equals, now have a -23 minus 5, which is the same as adding -5. So I'm adding 2 negative numbers together. So I get -28. Okay, now I got to divide both sides by this -2. Okay, negative divided by negative is a positive. 28 divided by 2 is 14. All right, so Now let's look at a different type of problem. These are where we're dividing an expression by a number. Now, it's kind of like if we were to rewrite this, we could rewrite this, it would look like this, meaning we would have to take this entire expression and divide it by 5 before we could solve it, okay? So what we need to do is first get rid of that 5, okay? We get rid of the 5 by multiplying both sides by 5 because we're dividing. Remember, inverse of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5, okay, which leaves me 15 on this side, and then this expression, x plus 7 on this side. Okay, now I just have a one-step equation. So I can take and subtract 7 from both sides, leaves me x equals 8. Alright, let's look at the next one. Okay, I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to have to get rid of this negative 9. To get rid of the negative 9, I've got to multiply by negative 9. Since I'm dividing. Okay, leaves me 2x minus 7. 1 times negative 9 is negative 9. Okay, my next step is to take and add 7 to both sides. Okay, I've got negative 9 plus positive 7. I've got to subtract, keep the sign of the one that's larger. Subtract, I get 2. 9 is larger, so it is negative. Okay, so my next step, I've got to take and divide both sides by 2. Negative 2 divided by positive 2 is negative 1. All right, here's 2 more examples. Again, we're going to start the same way. Okay, I've got to multiply both sides by 5 to get rid of the division. Okay, it's going to leave me 3x minus 4. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. Okay, next step, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. 3x, and then I have negative 20 plus positive 4. Okay, again, I've got a negative and a positive that I'm adding. I've got to actually subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. I subtract, I get 16, and it is negative because 20 is higher. Okay, so next step, I have to take and divide both sides by 3, which is going to leave me 16 divided by 3. Is going to be 5 1/3 or 5.3 repeating. And it is negative because I have a negative and a positive number. Okay? And our last example, again, multiply by negative 3. X plus 7. 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. Subtract 7 from both sides. Okay, negative 27 plus negative 7, because I have to change it to adding the opposite, is 27 34, and it's negative 34. Alright, you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, or I'm always available on Zoom at 2:15. I'll see you later. Have a great day.